When we talk about maintenance organization and functions, we are not going to discuss who is going to do the job, who is going to execute this function. We need just to show together what are the main pillars or main functions that should be in your organization, in your maintenance organization or maintenance department, in order to guarantee the success of the maintenance program. The first function that we will discuss is the preventive maintenance. And as we discussed earlier, the details of the preventive maintenance program or strategy, so the team who execute this function, the preventive maintenance function, should be in charge of designing and planning and executing the preventive maintenance actions. Either it is inspection activities or replacement activities based on frequency or time. In some organizations or some industries, the execution team, for example, or mechanical or electrical team, will be in charge of executing the preventive maintenance activities or tasks. And in some other organizations, there is a dedicated team to do the job. So regardless of who is going to do the job, we have to have such kind of function or such kind of team who should take care of the preventive maintenance program. When it comes to predictive maintenance, so it's the same case as preventive maintenance. So these kind of activities, predictive activities or predictive maintenance activities, which is related to vibration analysis, for example, or oil analysis, or first level of inspection, all these activities has to have someone to take care of. So in some organizations, there is a dedicated team who is supposed to be in charge of designing, planning, and executing the predictive maintenance activities. And in some other organizations, one team could be in charge of 2 or 3 functions together. Predictive maintenance, particularly in some organizations as well, they are outsourcing. Sometimes they are outsourcing the predictive maintenance to other contractors, especially vibration analysis. In some other organizations, they would keep one guy or they would hire one engineer in order to take care of the small jobs of vibration analysis, for example, or oil analysis, and then they would outsource the major jobs or the big jobs to experts, especially when it comes to vibration analysis or to oil analysis. In the practical life as well, most of the companies, they are relying on the same supplier who is supplying their oil or lubricants to do this oil analysis, yet they have to follow the trend of these analysis in order to study the history and the health of the equipment, because it looks like a doctor. So when you go to visit your doctor, usually he has a special card for you which explains all the detail and the history since the first time you visited him. So this is the way you should deal with your equipment in order to learn the trend of the health of the equipment itself. The third function is planning and scheduling, and this is actually considered one of the core functions in maintenance, because planning and scheduling will take care of the details of your maintenance program. So planning, for example, should take care of planning the job, so starting from identifying the steps of execution, which sometimes we call maintenance work instructions, or the job plan, or the instructions of the execution. So this team should build such kind of steps based on their experience or based on the recommendation of the manufacturer or based on the history of the equipment itself. And then they should take care of planning or identifying the required spare parts, if there's any required spare parts. And they have to make sure also that these spares are available in the warehouse before you decide to execute the job. They should also plan the needed manpower, the needed skills and competency to do the job. They're supposed to plan for the tools that are needed to execute the job. They're supposed to be in charge of planning the special equipments in case that you need a crane or a forklift all these special equipments they have to plan for. So the more details, the more perfection this planning job is done, the more success the whole organization of the maintenance will succeed. So planning is simply how to do the job, answering the question of how to do the job, while scheduling is how to answer the question of when to do the job. And when to do the job is not so simple as you think, guys, because it needs sometimes a big cooperation and harmony with the operation team or the production team who represent your internal customer or represent the owner, the real owner of the equipment, because they are the one who is operating the equipment. So you need to organize with the operation team when exactly you can stop the equipment, when exactly you will have the slot, the empty slot to execute the maintenance job. Of course, it depends also on the status of the equipment itself. If it's an emergency case, so the equipment has to stop as soon as possible in order to interfere and fix it and restore it back as fast as you can, or it might take some time until the operation team finds you a slot of time to stop the equipment and to interfere and to do the job. So planning and scheduling, again, it's very important function. It's really crucial for the whole maintenance organization to succeed. The next function is the execution function. Sometimes we call it the mechanical team, the electrical team, the automation team. Those the people who are doing the real job, executing whatever was planned and scheduled for. So sometimes they are taking care also of other activities, as we spoke earlier. For example, sometimes they are executing some preventive maintenance activities, predictive maintenance activities, but basically they are taking care of execution of the planned jobs or the planned and scheduled jobs. So the more efforts you are exerting through the planning team to make the job perfect to be done, the less time the execution team will waste. So instead of wasting their time going here and there looking for the right spare to be replaced, or looking for the right tool, looking for special equipment which was not rented yet or which is not available yet. So as long as your plan is as perfect as possible, the execution team will focus more on the quality of the job and to do the execution of the job in a high quality manner, and also within the proper time, so they will not waste time. So in this case, as a result of all these efforts, you will reduce the downtime of the equipment as much as you can. The last function is the shutdowns management. And in some organization, there is a dedicated team usually to manage these shutdowns, because in most of the industries, either you have one shutdown per year, which we call annual shutdown. Sometimes you have two shutdowns per year, so every 6 months you have a major shutdown, or sometimes they call it turnaround. So in some organizations, they have a dedicated team to do this job, because this is really very important to manage your shutdowns, because once you have one time or two times a year to do such job, so it means that you need to make sure that all of your equipments are guaranteed to run and operate successfully and to deliver the desired performance until the next stoppage or the next shutdown. So shutdown management, it looks like a small project management. So it looks like you are running a small project with a smaller time frame compared to the big projects. So usually if the shutdown is for 1 week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks or more than this, so sometimes during the shutdown also you might decide to do an upgrade for some of the equipments. You might decide to remove some of the equipments, to extend or expand a few equipments, and so on. So shutdown, it's a combination of planning and project management functions. So you still have to plan for the details of the jobs to be executed. You need to make sure that you acquire all the needed spares or all the needed equipments. all the needed tools, manpower, because in most of the time as well, the shutdown and during shutdown, you need to hire more manpower. So in most of the cases, the organizations would outsource some of the jobs either as a lump sum to some contractors, or you might also hire more manpower, more skills or competency to help your team, permanent employees or permanent maintenance people, to do the job within the time frame and within the required quality of the job.